1 year had passed since humans and Valerians first met in space. To celebrate this important day, Captain Deho organized a party on the Hanguk Explorer. Both human and Valerian crews were invited. The ship's largest room was decorated with symbols from both worlds. Earth foods and Valerian treats were laid out on long tables. Soft music played in the background, sometimes human songs, sometimes Valerian melodies. Deho stood near the entrance, greeting everyone who came in. He smiled when he saw Zal, the Valerian ambassador who had been part of the first contact. "Team, Ambassador Zal, I'm glad you could come," said Deho with a small bow. "Captain Deho," said Zal, his skin shimmering with friendly gold patterns. "I would not miss this celebration. 1 full Earth year of friendship between our peoples is worth celebrating." They walked together to get drinks. Water for Deho and a blue Valerian juice for Zal. "Much has happened in 1 year," said Zal, looking around at the mixed crowd of humans and Valerians. Some were talking in small groups. Others were trying foods from each other's worlds. "It has," agreed Deho. "We've learned so much from each other." Zal's skin changed slightly, showing purple dots that meant he was thinking deeply. "Yes, though I must admit the more we learn about humans, the more puzzling your species becomes." Deho laughed. "How so?" "Well," said Zal, "when we first met, we discovered humans eat chemicals that would poison Valerians. Then we learned you become unconscious every day and have hallucinations you call dreams. Later we saw your people can run until other species collapse from exhaustion. And most recently, we found you have internal skeletons that can repair themselves after breaking. When you put it that way, I suppose we are a bit unusual," said Deho with a smile. "More than unusual," said Zal. "By Valerian standards, humans are, how should I say this, terrifying." Deho almost choked on his water. "Terrifying us? Think about it from our perspective," said Zal. "You have evolved traits that seem designed for survival in the harshest conditions. You eat pain-causing substances for pleasure. You hunt by chasing prey until they die of exhaustion. Your bodies can repair severe structural damage. You willingly enter death-like states daily." As they talked, Jiwan walked over to join them. She had been the science officer during first contact and now worked closely with the Valerian science team. "Are you telling Captain Deho how scary humans are again?" she asked with a smile. "I was just explaining the Valerian perspective," said Zal. "No offense meant." "None taken," said Jiwan. "It's interesting to see ourselves through alien eyes." "There is something that puzzles me even more than your biological traits," said Zal, his skin now showing blue waves of curiosity. "Your species has devoted enormous resources to peaceful contact with other worlds. You seek friendship rather than conquest. Humans have protected Valerians with their bodies. Your engineer Sunmi risked serious injury to save Diplomat Rek. That's what friends do," said Deho simply. "But it contradicts all logical predictions based on your biology," said Zal. "Species with your traits usually become aggressive conquerors." Jiwan thought for a moment. "Perhaps that's the weirdest thing about humans. We evolved as predators but choose to be protectors. We can be dangerous, but we prefer to be kind." Across the room they saw Sunmi enter. Her arm was no longer in a cast, though she still walked with a slight limp. Rek immediately went to greet her, his skin glowing with warm colors. "Look at them," said Zal. "The human who broke her bones to save a Valerian, and the Valerian who now considers her a personal friend. This is the paradox of humans that fascinates us most." More guests arrived, including Admiral Vex. The tall Valerian military leader moved through the crowd, stopping to talk with both humans and Valerians. "Even Admiral Vex has changed his view of humans," said Zal quietly. "At first he saw you as potential threats. Now he speaks of humans with great respect. We respect the Valerians too," said Deho. "Our differences make us stronger together." As the party continued, Deho noticed how much things had changed in 1 year. The first meetings had been formal and careful. Now humans and Valerians talked like old friends. Some even tried to learn each other's languages instead of relying on translation devices. Later in the evening, Admiral Vex called for everyone's attention. The room grew quiet. "Today marks one Earth year since our peoples first met," said Vex, his voice deep and formal. "In this short time we have learned much about each other. Some of these lessons were surprising." There were smiles and small laughs from the crowd. "The Valerian High Council has been watching our work together closely," continued Vex. "Today I am pleased to deliver their decision." He held up a small device that projected a large image in the center of the room. It showed Earth surrounded by stars, with a special symbol next to it. "Humanity is being offered full membership in the Galactic Confederation," said Vex. "This is the fastest any species has been granted this honor." The humans in the room looked at each other in shock. This was much sooner than anyone had expected. "Furthermore," said Vex, "the Council has requested that humans take a special advisory role in Confederation defense matters." Now it was the Valerians' turn to look surprised. Defense advisory roles were usually given only to the oldest and most powerful species. After the announcement, people broke into excited groups talking about what this meant. Deho found himself back with Zal and Jiwan. "Defense advisors?" asked Jiwan. "Why us? We're new to space travel compared to most Confederation members." Zal's skin showed a pattern that humans had learned meant amusement. "Think about what we've learned about humans this year. You eat things that would kill other species. You keep going when others would stop. Your bodies can repair severe damage, and yet, with all these survival traits, you choose peace and friendship. I still don't understand," said Deho. "The Valerian High Council believes that any species that can survive what humans consider normal must have valuable insights on defense," said Zal. "But more importantly, any species that chooses friendship despite having such formidable traits is one we want as an ally." As the party began to wind down, Zal took Deho aside for a private word. "There is something I have not shared with the others," said the Valerian ambassador. "Something I reported to my superiors." "What is it?" asked Deho. "The strangest thing about humans isn't that you eat spicy food or break and heal your bones," said Zal. "It's that despite evolving as apex predators, you genuinely seem to prefer making friends to making war. This is extremely rare in the galaxy." Deho smiled. "Is that why the Confederation wants us as defense advisors? Because we don't want to fight?" "Exactly," said Zal. "And also because all the other species now believe it would be better to be very, very good friends with humans." As Deho looked around at the room full of humans and Valerians celebrating together, he thought about how strange the path had been. Humans had gained respect in the galaxy, not because they were powerful, but because they were weird, and used their weirdness for good. It turned out that being weird wasn't a problem after all. Sometimes being weird was exactly what the universe needed. 3 standard months after first contact, Research Station Epsilon 9 floated in the darkness of space. The large ring-shaped station had been quickly changed to make room for their new human crew members. Inside the medical section, Chief Medical Officer Day stared at the data on his screen with all 4 of his eye stalks extended in disbelief. "This cannot be right," he muttered, his hard outer shell clicking as he shifted position. "Run the scan again." His assistant, medical technician, Lim, tapped the controls with 2 of her 6 limbs. "I have run it 3 times, Doctor. The results are the same." Day's breathing sacs inflated and deflated rapidly, a sign of stress in his species. "But this makes no sense. How can an advanced species just shut down for 8 hours every day?" At that moment, Engineer Han entered the medical bay. Unlike Day and Lim, who had rigid exoskeletons like most spacefaring species, Han belonged to a race of soft-bodied beings with 12 tentacle-like limbs. His translucent skin showed the pulsing of his 3 hearts. "You look troubled, Doctor," Han said, flowing more than walking into the room. "I am reviewing the human biological data," Day replied, gesturing at the screen with his upper right limb. "Did you know that humans become completely unconscious for 1/3 of every day?" Han's skin rippled in what his species used as a nod. "They call it sleep. They lie down, close their eyes, and become totally helpless for hours at a time. But why? Day asked, his voice rising with frustration. What evolutionary advantage could there possibly be in regular periods of complete vulnerability? It gets stranger, Han said, moving closer. During this sleep state, their brains create vivid hallucinations that they cannot tell from reality while experiencing them. Hallucinations? Day's mandibles clicked rapidly. You mean like the effects of toxic fungal spores from the swamps of Deltas Prime? Similar, but they call them dreams, Han explained. Sometimes these dreams are pleasant, sometimes terrifying. The humans have almost no control over what they see in these states. Dai's primary heart began to beat faster. And they do this willingly every single day? They have no choice, Han said, his voice serious. Without regular sleep, they experience brain malfunction, emotion control problems, and eventually total system failure. Lim, who had been quietly listening, raised a limb. Perhaps it is a design flaw in their evolution? Many less advanced species have strange biological needs, but humans have achieved faster than light travel, Day countered. They've developed artificial intelligence, quantum communication, and gravitational control. How could beings that must become helpless and hallucinate every day accomplish such things? The laboratory door slid open with a soft hiss. Human Liaison Officer Yoon entered, opening her mouth in a wide display that showed all her teeth and much of her internal oral cavity. This yawning behavior still made the station's non-human staff uncomfortable, as most species only displayed their eating parts before attacking prey. "Morning, everyone," she mumbled, making her way to the nutrition station on the far wall. Day and Han exchanged glances. According to the station's time system, it was nearly midday. "Officer Yoon," Day said carefully, "are you experiencing problems with time perception?" Yoon blinked slowly, holding a container of steaming dark liquid that humans called coffee. "Huh? Oh no, I just didn't sleep well last night. Had weird dreams." "About what?" Han asked, his scientific curiosity winning over politeness. "I was being chased by giant talking vegetables," Yoon said casually, drinking her beverage. "The carrots were especially mean. They had little faces and kept shouting at me." Day quickly pointed his medical scanner at Yoon. The device beeped as it analyzed her brain patterns. "Your brain chemistry readings look normal, yet you're describing what sounds like serious mental illness." Yoon made a series of rhythmic huffing sounds, a behavior called laughing that still fascinated the station's scientists. "It's just a dream, Dr. Day. Everyone has strange dreams sometimes. It doesn't mean anything. And this doesn't worry you?" Day pressed further. "Regular hallucinations featuring plants that talk and chase you?" "Not at all," Yoon replied with a sound humans called a chuckle. "What does worry me is that I forgot to finish the thruster diagnostics yesterday. I should get on that right away." As she left, seeming completely unbothered by her nightly brain malfunctions, Day turned to Han and Lim. "I've been studying the human sleep research files," Lim said, bringing up new data on the screen. "It seems that sleep serves several functions for them. Their brains use this time to sort memories, remove waste chemicals, and process emotional experiences. But why must they become unconscious to do these things?" Day asked. "Why not remain alert and filter brain chemicals while still functioning as our species do?" "Perhaps it's a matter of energy efficiency," Han suggested. "Humans evolved on a planet with regular day-night cycles due to rotation. Maybe shutting down during the dark period saved energy. That still doesn't explain the hallucinations," Day pointed out. The door opened again, and Human Science Officer Jun entered. Unlike Yoon, he appeared fully alert. "Good day, colleagues," Jun said cheerfully. "I couldn't help overhearing your discussion about human sleep as I was passing by. Perhaps I can help explain." "Please do," Day said, gesturing to an empty space at the research table. "We find your species' need for regular unconsciousness confusing." June smiled, that strange baring of teeth that humans use to show friendliness rather than aggression. "I understand. From your perspective, it must seem like a dangerous evolutionary flaw." "Exactly." Day's mandibles clicked in agreement. How did your species survive predators if you had to be helpless for 8 hours every day? We adapted, Jun explained. Early humans slept in groups, with some keeping watch while others slept. We built shelters. We tamed fire to keep dangerous animals away. And eventually we became the most dangerous predators on our planet, so few creatures dared to attack us even while sleeping. But the dreams, Lim interjected. Why would evolution give you hallucinations during sleep? Jun thought for a moment. Our scientists believe dreams might help us solve problems, process fears, and practice important skills without real-world risk. There are many theories. As they spoke, the station's alarm system suddenly activated with a shrill sound. A computerized voice announced, "Warning, oxygen recycling system malfunction in Section 7B. Oxygen levels dropping." "That's the living quarters section," Han exclaimed, his skin turning pale with alarm. "There are 15 crew members sleeping. There right now," Lim added, checking the station's life sign monitors. Day was about to call the emergency response team when Jun moved with surprising speed to the environmental control panel. "The backup systems aren't engaging," he said, his fingers moving rapidly across the controls. "I'll have to override manually." For the next few minutes, Jun worked with intense concentration, rerouting systems and bypassing damaged circuits. Finally, the alarm stopped and the computer announced, "Oxygen recycling restored, air quality returning to normal parameters." "How did you know how to do that?" Day asked, all 4 eye stalks focused on the human. "Environmental systems are not your area of expertise." "I had a dream about it last night," Jun said simply. "A dream?" Han's skin rippled with confusion. "Yes," Jun nodded. "I've been studying the station schematics and I must have been processing the information in my sleep. In my dream, I was swimming through the station's air ducts fixing broken pipes. When the real emergency happened, I already knew what to do." The 3 aliens stared at Jun in silence. "You solved a life-threatening problem because of a hallucination?" Day finally asked. "Dreams aren't exactly hallucinations," Jun explained patiently. "They're more like mental playgrounds where our brains can experiment safely." After Jun left to check on the repaired systems, Day, Han, and Lim gathered around the research table again. "They're required to become unconscious and vulnerable every day," Day summarized. "During this time, their brains create uncontrolled thought scenarios. Yet somehow," Han added, "these thought scenarios occasionally produce useful solutions to real problems. And despite, or perhaps because of, this strange system," Lim concluded, "they've become one of the most innovative and adaptable species in the known galaxy." Day's breathing sacs expanded as he considered this paradox. "Perhaps we've been looking at this wrong. What if their neural inefficiency is actually a form of efficiency we don't understand?" "It does make you wonder," Han agreed, his 3 hearts beating in sequence, "if there's something about their mental chaos that gives them an edge in creative thinking. Maybe true intelligence requires a certain amount of disorder," Lim suggested. Day looked at the data screen one more time, where human brainwave patterns during sleep displayed as wild, unpredictable spikes and valleys. "Humans," he said, "with newfound respect are profoundly weird, and perhaps that's exactly why they're succeeding out here among the stars." The Grand Diplomatic Reception Hall on Space Station Unity was filled with representatives from 27 different species. The large circular room had been specially designed for interspecies gatherings, with different temperature zones, various atmospheric bubbles, and gravity adjustments to make everyone comfortable. Fleet Admiral June stood near the main entrance, his 4 arms crossed over his armored chest. As the highest-ranking military officer of the Galactic Council in this sector, it was his job to ensure the diplomatic event went smoothly. His green, scale-covered skin reflected the soft lighting as he surveyed the room with his 3 vertical eyes. "Everything appears to be proceeding well," said Cultural Exchange Coordinator Wu, gliding up beside him. Coordinator Wu belonged to a species of hovering beings with transparent bodies and 6 thin appendages that constantly moved in graceful patterns. "So far," Admiral June agreed, "the humans seem to be adapting well to space station life. They are remarkably flexible for beings with solid internal support structures, Wu observed. At that moment, human ambassador Min approached them. She was a middle-aged woman with short black hair and a friendly face. Like all humans, she looked strangely vulnerable without any natural armor, claws, or defensive appendages. "Admiral June, Coordinator Wu," she greeted them with a small bow. "I hope you're enjoying the reception. I wanted to personally invite you to try some special items from Earth I've brought for the occasion." She gestured toward a table near the center of the room where several other humans were arranging small plates and containers. "We would be honored," Admiral June said formally, following diplomatic protocol. As they approached the table, Ambassador Min picked up a small red object. It was roughly finger-sized, pointed at one end, and gave off a strong scent that made Admiral June's nasal filters automatically close. "This," Min said proudly, "is called a chili pepper. It's a type of plant that grows on Earth. Many humans consider it a delicacy." Admiral June stared at the small red fruit in disbelief. "You eat this?" "Oh yes," Min replied with enthusiasm. "This variety is called a ghost pepper. It's quite popular where I come from." Coordinator Wu moved closer, his scanner appendage extending to analyze the object. After a moment, he drew back suddenly. "Admiral," he said, his voice pitched higher than normal. "Our analysis shows this plant contains capsaicin, a powerful chemical irritant. In many species, this compound is used as a defense mechanism against being eaten." "Exactly," Min said, brightly. "That's what makes it delicious." Admiral June's protective eye membrane slid into place automatically. "You deliberately consume irritant chemicals for pleasure?" "Absolutely," Min confirmed. "The burning sensation releases endorphins in our brains. It's quite enjoyable once you get used to it." The gathered alien dignitaries watched with a mixture of horror and fascination as Ambassador Min casually bit into one of the peppers. She chewed thoughtfully for a moment, then swallowed. Almost immediately, her face turned a deeper pink color, and small droplets of moisture appeared on her skin. "See? Perfectly safe for humans," she said, though her voice sounded slightly strained. "Your outer covering is leaking fluid," Coordinator Wu observed with alarm. "Oh, that's just sweating," Min explained, using a small cloth to wipe her forehead. "It's how humans control body temperature." "Your temperature regulation system is triggered by food?" Admiral June asked, his voice filled with disbelief. "Sometimes," Min admitted. "Spicy food can do that. So can exercise, feeling stressed, or just being somewhere hot." Medical Officer Yoon, who had been monitoring the exchange from a short distance away, approached with a medical scanner in one of his 6 hands. Yoon's species had evolved from insect-like creatures, with a hard exoskeleton and compound eyes that caught the light in rainbow patterns. "Ambassador," he said, holding up his scanner, "your pain receptors are firing at 78% of their maximum capacity, yet you appear to be experiencing enjoyment." "It's a pleasant burn," Min insisted. "Humans often enjoy controlled discomfort. It's why we have roller coasters, horror movies, and extremely spicy food." Admiral June's head tilted to one side in confusion. "You deliberately seek out experiences that simulate danger." "Precisely," Min nodded. "It's fun." The aliens exchanged glances, their communication devices buzzing with private messages as they tried to make sense of this bizarre behavior. "Perhaps," suggested Coordinator Wu delicately, "this explains their rapid expansion into hostile environments. They appear to be uniquely adapted to find pleasure in conditions other species would find intolerable." Min gestured to the table, where more food items were displayed. "Would anyone like to try something? We've brought a variety of Earth foods with different flavors and intensities." There was a collective stepping back as the aliens moved away from the table. "I'll pass for now," Admiral June said diplomatically, "but I admire your species' remarkable tolerance for discomfort." Min smiled and moved on to speak with other guests. As soon as she was out of hearing range, Medical Officer Yoon leaned toward Coordinator Wu and Admiral June. "I've been analyzing their historical food databases," he said quietly. "They've been deliberately breeding these peppers to be increasingly painful to eat for over 6,000 years. "But why?" asked Admiral June. Competition, replied a new voice. They turned to see cultural anthropologist Hyun joining their group. Hyun's species resembled tall, slender trees with flexible branches and leaves that changed color with their emotions. Currently, his leaves were a deep purple of intellectual curiosity. Humans turn everything into a competition, Hyun continued. Even eating. They hold contests to see who can consume the most painful foods. The winners gain social status. That makes no biological sense, Admiral June protested. There's more, Hyun said, his leaves rustling with excitement. Some human cultures use these chemical irritants as medicine. They believe the pain triggers healing responses in their bodies. Do they work? Asked Medical Officer Yoon with professional interest. Surprisingly, yes, Hyun admitted. Their medical research shows these compounds have anti-inflammatory properties and can relieve certain types of pain when applied correctly. So they eat poison, Admiral June summarized, which causes pain, which they enjoy, and which sometimes makes them healthier? That's not even the strangest thing about their eating habits, Hyun continued. Many humans deliberately consume foods containing alcohol, a neurotoxin that temporarily impairs brain function. They call it drinking, and do it socially to reduce inhibitions. You mean they poison their brains on purpose? Coordinator Wu's transparent body pulsed with shock. In controlled amounts, Hyun clarified. They've developed cultural and legal limits to prevent excessive consumption. Across the room, they watched as Ambassador Min offered a different food item to a group of Rigelian delegates. This one appeared to be some kind of brown solid that melted slightly in her fingers. That's chocolate, Hyun explained. It contains compounds that are deadly to some of their own animal species, yet humans consume it for pleasure. It triggers reward centers in their brains similar to addictive substances. Admiral June's three eyes blinked in sequence as he processed this information. Their relationship with food seems to be less about nutrition and more about experience. Exactly, agreed Hyun. They use food for comfort, pleasure, social bonding, cultural identity, and even religious rituals. Some humans choose their food based on ethical or environmental concerns rather than personal preference. Medical Officer Yoon's antennae twitched with interest. Perhaps this explains their adaptability. A species that can find enjoyment in discomfort might be uniquely suited for the challenges of space exploration, and one that turns eating into a cultural experience rather than mere sustenance might be more creative in other areas as well, added Coordinator Wu. Admiral June watched as Ambassador Min laughed with the Rigelian delegates, her face still flushed from the pepper she had eaten. Despite her physical discomfort, she appeared completely at ease. Their approach to food mirrors their approach to life, he observed. They embrace experiences that other species avoid. They find joy in challenge. They transform necessities into pleasures. And they share their strange foods with others, Coordinator Wu noted, even knowing most species will find them unpleasant or dangerous. Because for humans, Hyun's leaves shifted to a warm orange of understanding. Offering food is offering friendship, regardless of the actual taste. Admiral June straightened his posture, a decision forming in his mind. Perhaps I should try one of their milder foods after all, as a gesture of diplomatic goodwill. As he moved toward the human food table, Admiral June heard Medical Officer Yoon mutter to the others, "Humans are extraordinarily weird, but perhaps we could learn something from their willingness to embrace discomfort for the sake of new experiences." Science Officer Bin sat in the observation room of Space Station Orion, staring through the large viewing window at the exercise area. His eight-legged body was perfectly still, all six of his eyes focused on the human running on the circular track below. The station's artificial gravity allowed for normal movement despite being in deep space. "This is the third hour," Bin said, his voice filled with disbelief. He should have stopped by now. Research Director Sion moved closer to the window. Unlike Bin, who had a hard exoskeleton and multiple limbs, Sion's species had evolved on a water world. Her bluish body was smooth and flexible, with 4 arms and a rounded head that housed 3 large dark eyes. She wore a special moisture suit that kept her skin from drying out in the station's air. "Fascinating," she said, adjusting the digital viewing enhancers that covered her eyes. Human security specialist Jay has now run more than 30 kilometers without stopping. It makes no sense, Ben muttered, checking his biological scanner for the 5th time. His muscle tissue is showing micro damage. His body is releasing stress hormones. His breathing and heart rate are elevated to 85% of maximum capacity. By all normal biological standards, he should have depleted his energy reserves long ago. Sion made notes on her data pad. My research indicates that humans have evolved for something called persistence hunting, chasing prey animals until they collapse from exhaustion, even though the humans themselves are tired. But there's no prey here, Ben protested, waving his front limbs in frustration. He's just running in circles for no reason. They call it exercise, Sion explained. According to my interviews with the human crew, their bodies actually deteriorate if not regularly stressed. Ben's primary heart fluttered in confusion. So they deliberately damage their musculature to prevent damage to their musculature? Precisely, Sion confirmed. When they stress their bodies this way, the damaged tissues heal stronger than before. They call it conditioning. It's remarkably inefficient compared to our species' method of cellular maintenance, Ben noted, but apparently effective for their biology. They watched in silence as human security specialist Jay continued his steady pace around the track. His legs moved in a smooth rhythm, arms swinging at his sides. His body was covered in a thin layer of moisture, the cooling system humans called sweat. I don't understand why evolution would create such an inefficient system, Ben said after another few minutes. My species developed an exoskeleton with direct neural control over cellular repair. Your species has rapid regeneration, skin that requires no exercise. Why would humans need to physically stress their bodies to maintain them? Perhaps because of where they evolved, Sion suggested. Earth has higher gravity than most inhabited worlds. It has extreme temperature variations, diverse terrain, and thousands of predator species. Humans had to adapt to many different challenges by becoming inefficient generalists rather than specialized experts, Ben concluded. Exactly, Sion nodded, her moist skin glistening under the lights. They're not the fastest, strongest, or most durable species, but they can run farther, adapt to more environments, and recover from more types of damage than most. As they watched, Jay finally slowed to a walking pace. After a few more minutes, he stopped completely, his body glistening with sweat. He picked up a towel and wiped his face, then drank deeply from a water container. Then, to Ben and Sion's surprise, he began doing a different type of exercise, lifting and lowering his body weight using just his arms. Now what is he doing? Ben asked, his voice rising with exasperation. Push-ups, Sion explained, strengthening the upper body muscles. After exhausting his lower body? Why not rest and recover first? I believe they call it a full-body workout, Sion said. Humans try to stress different muscle groups in a single exercise session. After completing this new exercise, Jay looked up at the observation window and waved, clearly aware that he was being studied. He smiled despite his obvious physical discomfort and walked toward the communication panel near the door. Beautiful day for a workout, isn't it? His voice came through the speakers, slightly breathless but cheerful. Ben and Sion exchanged glances. The station was in deep space. There was no day to speak of, just the artificial 24-hour cycle the station maintained to accommodate the human crew members. Your core temperature is elevated 2.3 degrees above your baseline, Ben noted with concern, and you've lost approximately 1.2 liters of fluid through sweating. Our medical protocols suggest you should report to sickbay. Jay laughed, wiping his face with a towel. That's the point of a good workout. I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. I feel great. Intentional dehydration and hyperthermia are beneficial? Sion asked carefully. No, Jay corrected. The sweating and heating up are just side effects. The benefits come from cardiovascular endurance, muscle development, and mental clarity. Ben adjusted his sensory appendages in confusion. You find mental clarity through deliberate physical stress? Absolutely, Jay confirmed, taking another long drink from his water container. Nothing clears the mind like a good run. It's scientifically proven. Exercise releases endorphins and improves brain function. A junior science officer named Tool entered the observation room. Tool belonged to the same species as Bin, though his exoskeleton was a lighter shade of green indicating his younger age. Research Director Sion, Tool said with a quick bow, "Your presence is requested in the biology lab. The experimental plants from Proxima Centauri are showing unusual growth patterns." "Of course," Sion replied. "Science Officer Bin, please continue. The observation and record all data." After Sion left, Bin continued to monitor Jay, who had moved on to yet another form of exercise using a set of weights. "How often do humans perform these physical stress routines?" Bin asked through the communication system. "Most of us exercise daily," Jay replied, lifting a heavy metal bar over his head repeatedly. "Some twice daily. It depends on our fitness, goals, and health needs." "And what practical purpose does this serve in your daily duties?" Bin pressed. "Does lifting these weights help you operate the station's security systems?" Jay smiled. "Not directly, but it means I can respond faster in emergencies. It improves my mental focus. And honestly, it just makes me feel good." Before Bin could ask more questions, the station's alarm system suddenly activated with a loud pulsing sound. Red lights began flashing throughout the corridors. "Warning," announced the station's computer in a calm voice. "Pressure anomaly detected in Cargo Bay 7. Atmospheric leak in progress. All personnel evacuate sectors 7 through 9 immediately." Bin instinctively curled his limbs closer to his body, a defensive posture for his species. "That's 3 sections away. We should be safe here." To his surprise, Jay immediately dropped the weights and sprinted toward the exit. "Where are you going?" Bin called after him. "Cargo Bay 7, Jay shouted over his shoulder. "There are 2 maintenance workers scheduled there today." Bin watched on the observation screens as Jay ran at full speed through the station corridors, even faster than he had been running on the track. According to the schematics displayed on the emergency system, Cargo Bay 7 was over 400 meters from the exercise area. The main screen in the observation room automatically switched to the Cargo Bay security feed. Bin could see that a large metal container had broken loose from its moorings during a gravity fluctuation and had crashed into the bay's outer wall, creating a small but dangerous breach. Air was visibly being sucked toward the damaged area. 2 maintenance workers were trapped behind fallen equipment, unable to reach the emergency suits or exit. Just as the automatic force field began to deploy, too slowly to prevent significant atmospheric loss, Jay burst into the cargo bay. Without hesitation, he grabbed an emergency patch kit from the wall and threw himself toward the breach. Despite the pull of escaping air, he managed to apply the patch, stopping the worst of the leak. Then, showing no signs of fatigue despite his hours of exercise, Jay freed the trapped workers and helped them reach the exit before the bay could be fully sealed off. Later, in the medical bay, Bin watched as the station's doctors examined Jay. "You had just completed 3 hours of intensive physical stress," Bin said. "Your muscles contained high levels of lactic acid. Your glucose reserves were depleted. By all biological standards, you should have been incapable of such an emergency response." Jay shrugged as a medical scanner moved over his body. "You do what needs doing when others are in danger. The exercise actually helped. My body is used to pushing past discomfort." Research Director Sion, who had joined them in the medical bay, looked at Bin with her large, dark eyes. "Their inefficient biology," she remarked, "somehow translates to remarkable crisis response capabilities." "They're not optimized for any specific function," Bin agreed, watching as Jay casually dismissed the doctor's concerns about his elevated heart rate, which perhaps makes them uniquely adaptable to a wide range of situations. "A species that intentionally stresses its systems," Sion observed, "might be better prepared for unexpected stresses." "Humans," Bin concluded, his voice, filled with newfound respect, "are fascinatingly weird." The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Union was a massive circular room. Its high ceiling curved into a perfect dome, decorated with maps of the known universe. Thousands of delegates from hundreds of worlds sat in rising tiers around a central platform. Today was special. After 6 standard months of evaluation, Earth would officially join the Galactic Union. High Commander Rin sat in her ornate chair on the highest tier. Her position marked her as the current leader of the Galactic Council, the 15-member group that governed the Union. As a member of the Vexillari species, Rin had an impressive appearance. Her body was covered in a natural armored shell that shimmered with iridescent blue and green. 6 slender limbs emerged from this protective carapace, and her large, compound eyes could see in spectrums beyond those visible to most species. "The ceremony will begin in 3 minutes," said Sung, her chief aide. Unlike Rin, Sung belonged to a species with 4 arms and golden scaled skin. His kind were known for their perfect memory and analytical abilities, making them excellent advisors. "Are the human delegates ready?" Rin asked, her voice a melodious series of clicks that the universal translators converted for others to understand. "They are waiting in the antechamber," Sung confirmed. "They appear to be engaging in their social bonding rituals." Rin's sensory antennae twitched with curiosity. "Explain." "They are standing close together, making physical contact with their upper limbs and producing rhythmic sounds that their species calls laughter," Sung reported. "Our cultural specialists believe this behavior reduces stress and strengthens group cohesion." "Interesting," Rin said. "Most species prefer to maintain maximum dignity before important ceremonies." The massive doors at the far end of the chamber slowly swung open. The room fell silent as the human delegation walked in. They moved with purpose down the long central aisle toward the speaking platform. The delegation consisted of 12 humans of various sizes, colors, and ages, a deliberate display of their species' diversity. Their leader, Ambassador Su, walked slightly ahead of the others. As the official announcement of Earth's acceptance into the Union was read by the ceremonial herald, Rin observed the humans carefully. At first, they stood still and formal, much like delegates from other worlds would. But as the announcement continued, describing Earth's achievements and contributions, Rin noticed strange changes in their behavior. First came the widening of their ocular organs, making their eyes appear larger. This was followed by quick, deep breaths that seemed almost like gasping. Then, most puzzling of all, fluid began leaking from several humans' eyes. 2 of the delegates pressed their hands against their mouths, as if trying to contain some reaction. "Are they malfunctioning?" Rin whispered to Sung. "Should we call medical assistance?" "No, Commander," Sung replied quietly. "According to our research, this is their joy response. The tears are a manifestation of extreme positive emotion." "They leak fluid when they're happy?" Rin asked, her antennae twitching with disbelief. "They also leak when sad, angry, or sometimes when experiencing no emotion at all," Sung explained. "Those are called allergies and are caused by environmental particles." As the herald finished reading the proclamation, several humans embraced each other, pressing their vulnerable torsos together in a display that would indicate deadly combat among most council species. "Hugging," Sung whispered before Rin could ask. "A comfort behavior. They actually find physical pressure from trusted individuals to be calming." The chamber's central platform lowered into the floor, then rose again carrying a small pedestal. On it sat the Union emblem, a crystalline object that would be presented to Earth as a symbol of membership. As per tradition, Ambassador Su approached the pedestal alone. But instead of the formal acceptance speech all had expected, she did something completely unexpected. She began producing rhythmic vocalizations that rose and fell in pitch, creating patterns that somehow made Rin's 3 hearts beat in synchrony. "She's singing," Sung explained softly. "It's a form of emotional expression through controlled sound production." Other humans from the delegation joined in, creating a harmonious blend of frequencies. The song had no words that the translators could detect, yet it seemed to carry powerful meaning. Rin noticed something extraordinary happening throughout the chamber. Delegates from completely different evolutionary backgrounds were responding physically to the human song. Some swayed gently, others closed their eyes or extended sensory organs. A few even produced their own accompanying sounds. Most peculiar, Rin noted, feeling her own respiration changing to match the rhythm. Their emotional displays appear to be contagious across species barriers. That's their most remarkable and potentially concerning trait, Sung confirmed. Humans can influence the emotional states of others through various signals: vocal modulation, facial expressions, pheromone release, and something they call empathy. They seem to both project and absorb emotions from those around them. When the song ended, the chamber remained silent for several moments. Then spontaneously, delegates began signaling approval according to their various cultural customs. Some flashed bioluminescent patterns, others released scented chemicals, while many created percussive sounds by striking appendages together, a behavior humans called applause that had become popular in the Union after first contact. Ambassador, Sue carefully took the Union emblem from its pedestal and raised it high. More fluid leaked from her eyes, but her mouth formed the expression humans called a smile. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, she said, her voice modulating unpredictably, we accept this honor with gratitude and joy. We pledge to contribute our unique perspective to the greater good of all intelligent life. As the ceremony concluded, Ambassador Sue approached the High Council tier. Protocol required a formal exchange with the High Commander. Rin rose from her seat and descended to meet the human halfway, as tradition dictated. Thank you for this honor, Sue said, her voice still unsteady. Small drops of moisture clung to her facial hair around her eyes. This means everything to us. For centuries, we wondered if we were alone in the universe. Now we know we have a family among the stars. To Rin's surprise, she found herself mimicking the human's facial expression. Her own mouth parts arranged themselves into what humans would recognize as a smile, a gesture her species normally never made. Welcome to the Galactic Union, Rin replied, surprised at the warmth in her own voice. Your species brings unexpected perspectives that may benefit us all. Later, in her private chambers, Rin reviewed the day's events with Sung. Their emotional volatility, she observed, studying recordings of the ceremony, should make them unstable and unpredictable. Yet somehow it binds them together, and now it seems to be binding us to them as well. They're the first species we've encountered that treats emotions as a strength rather than a weakness, Sung noted, his arms arranging data displays in the air around them. Their decision-making incorporates emotional data rather than excluding it. And their capacity for joy, Rin added, replaying the moment when the humans had begun singing, is unlike anything I've witnessed in my 300 cycles of life. The council voted unanimously to admit them, Sung reminded her. That's unprecedented for a species with such limited space travel experience. Because they made us feel something, Rin realized. Without using complex logical arguments or presenting statistical evidence, they made us want them to succeed. Is that manipulation? Sung wondered, his golden scales shifting with concern. Perhaps, Rin conceded after careful thought. But it's also a gift. When they sing about hope and unity, they don't just describe these concepts, they make others experience them. I find myself looking forward to working with them. Sung gathered his data displays and prepared to leave. Their emotions are indeed contagious. The cultural exchange programs are already oversubscribed. Species that normally avoid contact with others are requesting human representatives. Monitor the situation carefully, Rin instructed, but I believe this may be the beginning of something important. As Sung left, Rin replayed the recording of the human song once more. The sound filled her private chamber, and she felt her 3 hearts synchronizing with the rhythm again. She touched her face, and was surprised to find her own eye ducts slightly moist, a physiological response her species had not evolved to have. Humans, she whispered to her empty chamber, are wonderfully weird. Outside her window, the great spiral of the galaxy turned slowly in the darkness. Somewhere in that vast field of stars, A small blue planet had just taken its place in the community of worlds. Its inhabitants brought with them something as powerful as advanced technology or scientific knowledge. They brought emotion that could bridge the gaps between beings who had evolved on different worlds, under different suns. Perhaps, Rin thought, as she watched the stars, that was exactly what the galaxy needed most. The end.